Merry Christmas! Christmas Eve 2014. My, the time flies by. I'm putting on my glasses. You know, I've got new glasses. Have you noticed that I don't take them on and off much anymore because I don't have to, because they're very special prescription. Merry Christmas. We are guestless this evening for a couple of reasons. We thought we would kind of lay low a little bit, play you some Christmas music, get you into the rhythm. You know, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine about how he watches the show. He says, you know, I watch the show like this. Oh, Dan's on. And then I stop and I watch the whole show. And I think, you know, right now you could be and stopping and watching the whole show, but you could have been rat racing. Were you out there doing your thing, like running around, chasing down that last minute bunch of stocking stuffers, or the person you forgot, or the secret Santa that you didn't get, and you know, you're still going crazy. So you may have forgot to carol. You may have forgot to sing. And here we are, Christmas Eve, and it's time for you to sing. Now, we had these young people on last year, and they've returned from the Maria Day Music School in South County. And so here's what we're going to do tonight. Because everybody needs a vacation, and I'll be taking off between now and January 5th when we'll return for a rundown and brand new show and getting after it like everybody. Kind of a funny time, isn't it? Because the New Year being on Thursday, Christmas and New Year's Day being on Thursday, and then January 2nd, the first real work day of the year, no one's showing up anywhere. So it's a nice, the way the calendar rolls out, it's kind of a nice break for all of us. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to get Dan York shows that are worth watching, or Dan York State of Mind shows. The Dan York show is on the radio at WPRO, of course. We're going to preview some of the programs that we're going to have between now and then, if that's okay with you. Some are brand new that we produced just for this time period, and some were so good that we wanted to kind of revisit. But before we even start doing that, let's sing a little bit. How about Joy to the World? And yes, that's Maria Day on the piano. They lugged the piano outside. That's Tony's weather set. We've got a whole bunch more for you over the course of time. So tomorrow on Christmas Day, if you are, you know, interested in watching the program, I understand on Christmas Day it might be a little less viewership, a little bit more family and the like, but this is kind of fun. We had Roberta Mudge Humble here last year with her incredible array of Rhode Island trivia, games, books, all of that. And this was just so much fun, and we got so much great response from it that we thought we would run it again. Here's an excerpt.
There are stars in Rhode Island, and they all are nationally famous. Meredith, Viola, and Seth, they are the stars. Then there were senators, and there are wonderful senators right here. John Chafee, Pastori, and Pell, all good.
That's Maria Teverazzi, who came with Roberta Mudge Humble, who will be in the program. Roberta is incredible. She is a real jewel in this state, and she's been a guest on a number of occasions here over the first year. Plus, boy, it's been like, 16, 17 months with this program now, and she's been on, I think, 3 or 4 times, and she should be, because she loves this state. And so if you're looking for a gift idea past Christmas, Rhode Island trivia, all that kind of thing, you got to watch this show. It's cool stuff. And then on Friday, and Friday nights have been, according to the ratings that are coming back on the show, a very big viewer night. And I'm trying to put really important or fun conversations on Friday night. This is an important conversation. Stephen Alexander scored 1,000 points in high school at Ponegantsit as a girl. And now he's a man, and he's a coach, and he's a teacher, and he has had a transgendered life change that is pretty courageous. And as he's appeared on a program, he has gotten more and more courageous about the conversation. This is a new show that you have not heard or seen before. Here's a peek.
We really, as Americans, need to start thinking outside the box. It's not just female, it's not just male. There are transgender people, gender nonconforming, LGBT people. We are all connected to each other in some way, shape, or form. And it's, how we use that information and how we're sympathetic and empathetic to friends and family. It's just it's a difficult road to walk, that fine line.
He's a courageous guy. He really is. And in the Ponegantsit system, he's become just a regular staple. The one thing about his story is that while he has been inducted in the Hall of Fame at Ponegantsit, his name as a female, it's Jen, right? It was Jen. Jess confirms it was Jen. He's Jen on the 1,000-point scoring banner. And my wish for him for 2015 is that it's Stephen Alexander. It doesn't mean that I've gotten way left liberal, evolved to the point where I've completely lost any of my, conservative way of thinking. But when you meet him, you realize that this would be a great gift to him. And I say it's no skin off anybody's nose. So I hope they do that for him come 2015 in Ponegantsit. But I think you'll learn a lot from the conversation, so make a mark. That'll come up on Friday. How about a little bit of Christmas before we break, and I'll come back and tell you about what's going on as we wrap up the year-end shows. Stay with us. Yes, we are back. Give us peace, Dona Nobis Pacem, the Maria Day Music School singers who graced our parking lot. Well, it's the weather. It's the weather. What do we call that? The weather? The weather yard here at the famous Eyewitness News, Fox Providence, and MyRI TV facility in East Providence. Welcome back in to Dan York's State of Mind. Guest list tonight, just kind of previewing some of the things that we will have for you over the balance of the next week or so as we take a little bit of time off and sprinkle in some of the nice music. You know, coming up on Monday, the 29th, in our last few days of the year, we've been looking at some previously aired shows and some brand new shows. Phil Isle, who is the former editor of the Providence Phoenix, and the reason why he's the former editor of the Providence Phoenix is because there is no more Providence Phoenix. Earlier in the year, when we recorded this program, he was still toiling. We've had Phil on since, talking about, you know, the demise of that paper and what a bad break that is for local media, in my humble judgment. But Phil's got an unfinished investigation that he's working on, which I'll save the details for you if you missed that show. It's something that I think you should take a look at, because it raises a lot of questions about the authorities in law enforcement and sometimes how uncooperative they may be. On Tuesday, this is a special broadcast and a conversation that actually I found pretty difficult to have with Michelle Gay. She is, for lack of a better term, and I talked to her about how to refer to her, she's a Newtown mom. And if I say Newtown mom, I think that probably resonates right away, right? Her little one, Joey, was lost in that just absolutely heinous attack in Sandy Hook now a little more than 2 years ago. And she's done something incredibly constructive. She has decided to go out there and talk about safety in schools. And she's formed an organization called Safe and Sound and a website, safeandsound.org, that you can hook into. And anybody in America who's looking to have the dialogue and improve school safety in their community can go to this website and learn about safe practices and the like. She's accumulated through experts and her own instinct all sorts of data, information, policies, procedures, discussions, blogs, and she comes out and she visits communities, walks the school grounds, talks about safety. It's her way to give back. She's a teacher by trade, the mom of 3 little ones, and then lost Joey, who had autism, a special little girl. She was on the program a couple of weeks ago here, actually last week, and the conversation was so important that I asked her to stay for a lengthened conversation. Here's a piece of that.
That place was so sacred to my daughter, and because I practically lived there with her, I was very involved in the school.
You're a teacher.
I am. I was a former teacher, so this, for so many reasons to me, was something that I needed to champion in her honor. I needed to make sure that all of the other schools, all of the other communities that have, you know, teachers and young children, young adults, that in order to go and do what we want people to do, which is learn and grow and become responsible citizens, there's got to be this sense of safety and comfort, and you can't have that if you're going to school every day thinking, well, gosh, I hope what happened in Sandy Hook doesn't happen here.
Yeah, you know, let me tell you something. Sitting next to her so closely, I actually felt this power coming from her. The courage that she has and so many other parents have had since that horrifying event that has no words to match the loss and the scene. And, you know, she talks openly about her therapy. She talks openly about her kids' therapy. She talks openly about, you know, some days it feels like yesterday and some days it feels like you know, a century ago. She talks about her relationship with her daughter and about the project and how meaningful it is and how connected she feels. It's a must view. It's a must view, and so I hope that you'll see that on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, on New Year's Eve day, I figure I'd just kind of roll back because, you know, it's a little raucous. So we had quite the debate here on this concept called Roadmap RI. So on Wednesday, we'll revisit that conversation. Roadmap RI, according to the House of Representatives Speaker, Nick Mattiello, is now on the shelf for observation by the General Assembly rather than action. This is a plan that has been a couple of years in the making, sponsored by a $2 million grant from the Federal Housing and Urban Development Group, came down to the Statewide Planning Commission, was the subject of all sorts of public hearings and discussions and debates and the like, and really kind of operated on a stealth basis. We had done a show on it last year, kind of as just one of those things going on, and nobody really paid attention to it. Didn't have any part of the conversation in the governor debate. Most people ran for office not discussing it, but then all of a sudden it steamrolled toward its deadline, got delayed when the House Speaker said, hold on, we don't know what's in that, we got to take a look, and then he kind of went stealth on the whole thing. It's an argument about where we go from here. Here was a piece.
Existing neighborhoods are being demolished, literally demolished, because they're single-family homes. Single-family
that's not
homes are the
true.
enemy. It is true. We've done the research.
I just talked
the
to
Cato Institute
I
has
just
done
talked
the
to
research.
a friend
so
of
they're
mine.
Talk to each other.
I talked to
demolishing
a friend of mine
homes
who's involved
in
in
order
this.
to build smaller units in
He
these
said there
smart
will
growth
not be
type
one
centers.
home demolished. There will not be one neighborhood
Well,
demolished.
then maybe the people have spoken up, and because we know in San Francisco, the left and the right got together to stop the planners from doing this, and maybe they have.
This is an ongoing debate. Even though it's on the shelf, it could creep off at any time. On the left was Scott Wolf from Grow Smart Rhode Island. On the right was Mike Stenhouse from the Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity. You'll want to take notes on this debate because something tells me that it's not done for 2015. All those people didn't do all that work thinking that no one would at least debate it and try to implement some of the policies that are in it next year. So stay with us for that on Wednesday, New Year's Eve day. And what do we do for the new year? We'll tell you when we come back, but first, I need some more carols or a few of our favorite things or something.
Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudel, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. Rose and white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into springs. These are a few of my favorite things. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows.
You know, we still, at the York household, we still make an appointment. My daughter will be 20 in February. And by the way, I just celebrated my 24th wedding anniversary this past weekend. How about that? Thanks, Jess. I would tell you the story on how we got married so close to Christmas, but I wouldn't make it to the 25th. I'd be divorced. But we still together watch Rudolph. We make a point of doing that because, you know, I need my abominable. Just, I need my abominable fix. And I like the little dentist guy. Anyway, on tap for our programs on New Year's Day and Friday the 2nd. You need to see this conversation with Phil West, who formerly directed Common Cause, a good government group, for such a long time. His book is called Secrets and Scandals, and it's all about Rhode Island government, and it's not a boring book. It's a heck of a write. You wrote it for what purpose? I mean, this is one heck of a life's work, so you wrote it why?
Well, because as I was in the State House, taking notes, listening to people, writing things down, I knew that this was profoundly important. I didn't know where it was going to go, but I kept taking notes. I've always been a note taker. I had no idea that we were going to pass separation of powers. I didn't know where things were going to come out, but I realized that it was important stuff to get down, and so I did that.
Yeah, it's really, it chronicles a lot of the things, at least in the last 15 years, that I have been following. And for those of you who've been watching Rhode Island government for any length of time, you're going to see a lot of stories. Oh, yeah, I remember when that guy did that, this, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of behind the scenes on what was really going on. So it's a must view. And you really ought to pick up the book, which is available in local bookstores, Secrets and Scandals. And speaking of secrets and scandals, there's nobody better in Rhode Island, I think, to find out what's going on secretly and scandalously than Tim White and Target 12. And so on Friday night, Tim and I will review his work, some of the major Target 12 pieces, and look forward to next year. He thought it was a pretty heavy lift this year. Was this a heavy year for you this past year?
Yeah, it was. And
Prorated?
I hope my boss is watching. It was a very, very busy year because we had a lot of investigations. You outlined some of them there. And then we had some investigations where the ripple effects have continued. I mean, the weightlifting story, we aired that in 2011.
Right.
And that is still, we're, what, 3 years later, going through the courts, and then it was an election year.
Right.
So 14 was very busy.
Yes, it was very busy for Tim. By the way, that's a brand new program that we recorded just for Friday the 2nd. We go through a lot of the details and the behind-the-scenes stuff that didn't make it through the edit room on the Target 12 pieces. So stay tuned for that. I think we're very lucky right now these days to have journalists who are given the time and the resources to go out and get the stories. We're also very lucky to be able to sing Jingle Bells. Christmas Eve 2014. We'll wrap the whole thing up when we come back. Stay with us.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha ha ha! Bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle.
You know, I just got to say, as we wrap up 2014, I just want to thank you so much for watching the show and telling people about it. You know, if you miss any episode, you can find it at 11:30, 7:30, and 11:30 on IRI TV, and of course on FoxProvidence.com. For Jessica Silva, my producer and tonight director, I say we wish you a Merry Christmas, the best of a new year in 2015, and we'll be back with original programming after some of the originals you'll see during the holidays on January 5th. Good night.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a